Even you, Watson, had you been relating the history of this early adventure of mine, would, I suggest, have felt little need to embellish the facts. I had foiled the plot upon the Queen, the purpose of which shall shortly be revealed to you. And I believed that the conspirators had flown. Imagine then my amazement when Colonel and Mrs. Turnbull, as I shall continue to call them, arrived unexpectedly and in a most friendly fashion at my aunt's house. And imagine, if you can, my horror when, as they were on the point of departure, their carriage was suddenly blown to smithereens by a device placed beneath it.
The Koh-i-Noor, then. That exquisite, priceless jewel that once formed the eye of the peacock in the ancient peacock throne of Delhi. A jewel which has passed into Julep Singh's safekeeping from his father, and a stone of epic significance to the Sikhs.
Do you think he'd like to see it returned to India?
I dare say he'd like to. He probably thinks the Queen has about as much right to the Koh-i-Noor as he has to Windsor Castle, but I doubt that he was directly involved in the plot. Well, was he?
No. He just wanted to see it again, to hold it again. But when he'd done and give it back, I was to swap it for the one faked up by Greasley.
There you are. Didn't I tell you that man was a glass cutter? Doctor, my foot.
You were to swap it?
I'm a dab at sleight of hand, dearie. My old man could have palmed the crown jewels. He was the amazing Marvello.
Good heavens. I remember seeing him.
14 pigeons up one sleeve.
And a parakeet under his hat.
Dr. Sarma.
Yes.
If you don't mind.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now, tell me, however were you and the Koh-i-Noor diamond to be returned from palace life to the outside world?
Simple. I'll just go for a walk in the park one day. She's always doing it. Wanders off. One lady in waiting. Make sure it's old Lady Jane. You can leave her miles behind. I'll slip off. I'm picked up by old Turnbull, who's brought Her Majesty down from Preston in the coach and propped her under a tree. She comes to, a bit giddy, don't remember much. Everyone thinks she's just had another nasty turn and no one any the wiser. Anyway, it wouldn't matter much if they were.
How much were they paying you for this?
I was to get a pension of 50 quid a year for life. From the government.
From our government?
Well, that's what they said. I didn't know they was criminals. This professor came from the Prime Minister, see?
Moriarty.
No. Gladstone, you fathead.
What exactly did this man say?
He come to the theatre. And he said as how he'd never seen no one more like the Queen than me. When I'm all got up as Her Majesty, that is. And if I'd impersonate her for a couple of days and swap the diamond, I might very well be saving her life, that's what.
But how?
Well, I don't know. Go and ask blooming Gladstone.
Hardly knowing whether to laugh or cry, I left poor Bessie with Captain Cholmondeley, who was taking her in custody to Fulwood Barracks. She seemed still to cling to the idea that she had acted unselfishly on behalf of Her Majesty's government. Dr. Sowerbutts promised that if ever she returned to the halls, he would take us all one evening to see her, and that he would invite her to join us afterwards for supper. Meanwhile, having received a message from Newbugs, I returned once more to my hideaway in the woods.
Ah, Mr. Greasley.
Step inside, if you'd be so kind. Or you can leave me to close the door.
Hello, Master Sherlock.
Well, well, well. What a day it is for renewing old acquaintances. It was you, not Newbugs, who sent the message.
A penny to some village brat. I'd have willingly paid double.
It was you who tried to kill the Colonel.
Acting on orders. He was expendable, you see?
Not very successful, were you?
Nobody's perfect. Now, outside.
Where are we going?
Wait and see.
Now walk.
I assume it was the Indians who commissioned the recovery of the Koh-i-Noor.
As a matter of fact,
The idea was Mr. Willoughby's.
As I suspected. Freddie Willoughby, alias Ranjit.
And how do you know that?
The initials FW on his ring. An arthritic finger joint. I assume he was unable to pull the ring off and unwilling to have it cut off. Gift from his father, no doubt.
And what do you know of Mr. Freddie Willoughby?
Oh, English parents. Father, a district officer in the Indian Civil Service. Freddie was brought up in India, fanatically anti-British. Out to revenge himself on Britain because his father was, as he thought, unfairly dismissed and disgraced. He'd go to any lengths to embarrass the Crown.
How in heaven's name do you come by such information?
By regular and careful reading of the Illustrated London News. I assume the stone would never have been returned to India.
Well, let's just say once the professor got his hands on it. Who knows?
If you're going to kill me, might I request that you do so quickly?
That's a very melodramatic thing for a lad like you to come out with. Anyway, we have the strictest instructions.
Alas, the professor doesn't want you killed.
He already tried to kill me once.
Tried to.
The gas.
There was a perfectly obvious way out of that.
You mean the chimney, but we damn near didn't make it.
Then we gave you credit for a quicker intelligence and more skill at chimney climbing than you possess.
So, what are you going to do?
I'm going to leave you tied to that tree and hope it is some time before anybody finds you.
Come on, Greasley. We have a long journey ahead of us. Goodbye, Sherlock. We may meet again, if you're lucky.
I warn you, I'm usually very lucky.
Within a short while of Jasper and Greasley departing, dusk began to fall, and soon, as I had expected, I heard the sound of someone approaching. For Jasper and Greasley had overlooked the fact that I numbered among my friends an indefatigable poacher, and they had unwittingly allowed me to lead them to the very crossroads of new bugs' rabbiting routes.
Hello?
Where are you going?
Set me traps.
Untie me from this tree, you cretin!
Eh? How'd you come to be tied to tree then, eh? You did have get yourself in some scrapes.
And so it all ended, and anticlimax set in. The weeks that followed were among the dullest of my entire life, being confined, as I now was, to the routine of Aunt Rachel's house. It was a period made blacker by the onset of the preparations for Christmas, for these, despite the best efforts of Aunt Rachel, Gideon, and even of Charity to include me, served only to remind me that the year before I had spent this holiday at the Manor house among my own family. There was, however, to be one more surprise. And it came a day or two before Christmas, when I was summoned urgently to John Whitney's surgery.
Johnny? Johnny! Johnny!
What now?
Well, did you send a brace of pheasant to old Arthur Farnsworth for me?
Yes.
Oh.
As usual.
Well, I hope he remembers to send me Stilton. He forgot last year, you know.
Well, what did you do? Write and ask for your pheasant back?
No, do you think I should have done?
Oh, honestly, George, Christmas is a time for giving.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. He didn't give me anything. It's the first time he's missed in over 20 years. Well, I suppose his memory's going. Still, as you've already sent his pheasant, I suppose we'll have to give him the benefit of the doubt. Charlotte, my dear, you know the thing I hate most about this time of the year?
What, Uncle George?
It's having to write all these deuce Christmas letters. I'm crippled with writer's cramp till the end of March.
Perhaps you should adopt the modern practice and send a picture card.
Never. Oh, I'd like to see my Aunt Lucy's face if I sent her a bit of pasteboard with a pen of the snow or a robin on it. No. No. She looks forward all year to her letter.
Then you'll just have to suffer, won't you? Oh, that must be Sherlock.
Have you told him yet?
Not yet. I'm going to do that now.
I can't wait to see his face.
What's wrong, John? I came as quickly as I could.
Nothing's wrong, Sherlock. I just have some very exciting news.
Oh, you spoiled it. You should have led him on a bit.
Oh, be quiet, George.
Christmas really does bring out the worst in Uncle George.
Sherlock, on Thursday, February the 8th, we are commanded to Windsor.
What?
The Queen wishes to thank us personally.
I say, how absolutely splendid.
Isn't it? My Aunt Lucy in Lincolnshire will dine out on this for years.
You've not told her.
Of course I've told her. It's brought great distinction to us all.
George, you're not supposed to do that. It's a matter of utmost secrecy.
But it's only Aunt Lucy. She's family.
I don't care what she is, George. I'm sorry.
Oh, come on, John. Aunt Lucy's over 90. She won't tell anyone if we ask her not to.
Say, John, I've had an idea. I'll think of some excuse for Aunt Rachel, and we'll spend a day or two in London, just the four of us.
6.
6?
The Queen wishes to thank Catchin, Chumley and Newbugs as well.
Yes, and Sherlock, I hold you responsible for that young man's appearance and behaviour.
No doubt, all of you feel a sense of disappointment that no one has been brought to justice for taking part in so audacious a plot against us. But you see, we have some sympathy with the Indian feeling in this matter, and neither wish to aggravate the situation further, nor to foment anti-Indian feeling in this country. After all, many Indians may feel the Koh-i-Noor is their property, and that they have every right to return the stone to the land from whence it came. Thus, we must request that you say nothing whatsoever about this affair. It shall be as though it had never occurred. You wish to ask us a question, Mr. Holmes?
No, ma'am.
That is charmingly polite, but patently untrue. We shall therefore take it upon ourselves to inform you that we have, with the greatest reluctance, accepted the resignation of our Munshi, and that he is at this very moment on his way home to India.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now, I am sure you would wish to see what all this has been about. There, the Koh-i-Noor diamond.
The Mountain of Light. How aptly named.
It is exquisite.
You know, I have heard said that it was badly cut by the Dutchman Voorsanger, that it should have been brilliant cut rather than rose.
Is that so? Well, I'd never heard that.
That is one opinion, Dr. Sauberts. Now, to our thanks. You, Captain Chumley, we have had one occasion to thank before, though you were but a lieutenant then. It is very comforting to know that our army can still attract such men as you.
Thank you, ma'am. It is always a privilege to serve.
For you, Mr. Holmes, this gift. It is not the Koh-i-Noor, you understand, but we are assured the emerald is real, and it is cut, we trust, to your entire satisfaction.
I shall treasure it always, ma'am.
You, Dr. Whitney, we intend to appoint physician in ordinary to the royal household. We trust you will be able to come to London shortly.
Oh, indeed, ma'am. I am deeply honoured.
We hope, Mrs. Whitney, that you will not find London too noisome and oppressive after the peace and tranquillity of your Lancashire fells.
Not in the least, ma'am. I am always only too happy to be wherever my husband is.
How well we understand. It was so once with us. Dr. Sowerbuds, you, we feel sure, will appreciate this chronometer. It was for many years in the possession of our uncle, King William IV.
This is most generous. Do you know, when I was a young sergeant lieutenant, we used to sing a song in praise of your uncle. Our king is a true British sailor, we used to sing. Sailor Billy, we called him then. Oh, I say. Oh, this is absolutely beautiful, my dear. Oh, I'm sorry, Ma'am. I meant to say...
No, do not apologize, Doctor. This is a purely informal occasion, and there are few enough people left to call me my dear. Now, Mr. Newbugs, what are we going to do about you?
Begging your pardon, ma'am, his correct name is Bugglesworth. Newton Q. Bugglesworth.
Oh, why the devil didn't he say so before?
May we ask, Mr. Bugglesworth, what does the Q stand for?
Nothing too particular, ma'am. Well, it's just as me ma thought it were a very pretty letter.
And so it is, Mr. Bugglesworth. And so it is. That picture seems to fascinate you, Mr. Bugglesworth. It is our late husband's favourite greyhound, painted by Sir Edwin Landseer. It is a treasured possession.
I likes dogs.
Mr. Bugglesworth's knowledge of dogs and his skill in identifying their tracks was a major element in the uncovering of the plot against you, ma'am. He is a master of country law, and is truly at home only in the outdoors, where his skills, I venture to submit, are unmatched.
My dear Mr. Holmes, you have most subtly and generously suggested a way out of our quandary concerning Mr. Bugglesworth. Mr. Bugglesworth, would you like to work on our estates at Balmoral? You might, in time, become a gamekeeper.
Oh, well, I reckon that'd be pretty grand. Oh, but I doubt me dad'd like it. He don't like them gamekeepers.
Oh, then we shall have to persuade your dad of the good sense of our proposal. Shall we not? We have enjoyed this little private conversation. You know, the great lesson we have learned from this whole affair is that we must no longer be such a recluse. For when a queen leads her people and is seen frequently among them, the chances of anarchy, republicanism, and such plots as we have recently witnessed are greatly reduced. We owe a great debt to you all. But especially to you, Mr. Holmes, for you have proved skillful, resourceful, and modest. We particularly hope that you will always retain your natural modesty. For it is, you know, a vital adjunct to your other qualities.
Believe me, Ma'am, I shall do my very best.
Charity, has that woman packed yet?
Yes, Mamma. Her bags are in the kitchen, and I've counted the spoons.
Such ingratitude to bite the hand that has fed her for so long. Yes, Mrs. Conliffe?
I wondered if perhaps I might be permitted to say goodbye to young Mr. Sherlock, Mum.
Very well, but kindly be brief. Your departure's upsetting the routine of the entire household. Charity, you and I will check the linen cupboard.
Yes, Mamma. If you was to say, don't go, Mr. Sherlock, I'd not go, you know.
Mrs. Cunliffe, I gave your Tom the strictest instructions that he was to stand no more nonsense from you, but to marry you forthwith.
You'll always be welcome at our little house in London.
I know, Mrs. Cunliffe, or Mrs. Hudson, as I suppose I must now get used to calling you. What is your address to be?
221 Baker Street, Marylebone, sir.
Well, we may very well meet there one day.
I do hope so. Goodbye, sir.
For remembrance.
Bravo, young un.
A nice, quiet picnic in the woods, he said. Oh, I wish you'd never given him that pistol, Uncle George.
Well, I wouldn't have done had I known it was still working. It's an old hair trigger, and I was very fond of that.
You might have kept it till after we'd left.
It's funny to think that tomorrow you'll be gone. I had a letter from Newbugs, by the way. The first he ever worked.
Worked?
Yes, you know, worked. W-I-R-T. I think he meant writ.
How's Balmoral suiting him?
Oh, he adores it. He's found a new Idland mentor in John Brown. What time do you go in the morning, John?
Oh, early.
You and I will see him off together, young'un? If you get rid of that cold, that is.
Don't worry. What's the new house like?
It's very pleasant.
And very handy for the British Museum.
Good.
What will you do, Sherlock?
Oh, well, there are so many possibilities at the moment, you see. University, perhaps, eventually. Or I may even work with Uncle Gideon for a while.
Will you not go back to school?
I may. My plans are all very uncertain at the moment.
I understand from John you had another letter from Biarritz last week. From your parents?
No. They're still travelling. It was from Grandmamma, actually. And that, you see, is why my plans must remain uncertain. I probably shan't stay with Aunt Rachel for very much longer. You see, when my parents return to Paris, they'll no doubt send for me. They may even return to England.
Well, look, old chap, I hope you'll always think of Charlotte and I as your friends.
Of course.
You've only to let us know if you need us.
Yes, I know.
Promise.
Of course, Charlotte. Of course.
Well, don't you worry your head about him, Charlotte, my dear. We'll be all right, you mark my words, eh, young'un?
Oh, and do put that thing out. You'll never learn to smoke it.